Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and everyone and everything in between, welcome to the Stay Positive Podcast, episode 39. I'm Alex.
I'm Pete.
And joining us today is a lovely lady who goes by the name of...
Daphne. Hello, everyone.
Hi, Daphne. It's great to have you here. So,
my little sister managed to break into the quote-unquote studio.
It's true. I had a chain lock and everything, but she just ripped it off with her Hulk strength. Anyway, we have a topic today, don't we, Pete?
We do, but I'm not the one that brought it to us.
All right.
So,
to the expert.
What's it about, Daphne?
Right. Well, since I am a minor in music at my university, one of the courses I have to take is called Music 313, which is Hearing Politics. And in this course, we discuss the political ramifications associated with music and listening to various sounds. So, obviously, I think we can all attest to the fact that when we listen to music, we oftentimes don't really pay attention to what's going on. We just think, oh, this sounds nice, this sounds bad, I like it, I don't like it. But actually, when we are listening to music, we don't realize that the sounds, the melodies, the rhythms we are listening to have their own political ramifications. And that being said, in Music 313, we address the way we hear the politics of hearing itself. So our social lives, as we know, are full of listening to debates, to speeches, to protests. And so something as simple as listening to our peers, it's a part of who we are and our genetic makeup. So that's a little bit about what I'll be talking about today.
That's interesting. Wait, so when you brought this topic to me, I was under the impression that we were going to talk more about lyricism, but you're talking about the actual sound, the frequencies, the audio itself. That's interesting.
Well,
what does that have to do with political agendas, or to one polarizing effect, propaganda?
It's a conspiracy, Pete. They're out to get us.
Totally.
It's basically political topics and sound are affiliated with the way we listen to each other, or rather do not listen to each other, and how they tie back into our whole political climate and how we address each other, how we communicate, the sort of dialogue we have between each other.
So they influence our behavior or how we behave with others?
In a way, yes, depending on
what kind of behavioral influence do you think occurs?
Well, let's say, if we were to listen to a song, right, by a certain artist, what they're trying to say to us through that music can affect the way we act or portray ourselves based on if we agree with the beliefs or the ideas they're trying to bring about through their lyrics.
So their lyrics do play a part.
Yeah, of course. That's kind of a no-brainer, I would assume. But what about with the melody itself? Does the melody have any role in that, or I just want to make sure I'm understanding this perfectly?
Regarding certain melodies, if you were to have a softer melody or tone that wouldn't be as harsh, I guess, regarding your emotions, you could say that with a softer melody, it would relax you more, you wouldn't be so inclined to act out a certain way, as opposed to if you were listening to something sort of harsher, it would stir within you, I guess.
No, of course.
Of emotions.
It makes sense. You're not going to listen to death metal and be walking in the park, right? You're going to be trying to lift 500 pounds off the rack in the gym.
Gym music, yes, exactly.
Okay, I think I get it then. So it has to do with the overall energy that the music is portraying in a way. Because we both know how much I like music.
EDM?
Yeah, sure. But there are some songs that are high in energy that you can just tell given by a BPM, and there are some songs that are lower in energy, and it's pretty obvious, you can tell. So I guess, is there something that has to do with the energy of a song that affects political disposition?
I wouldn't necessarily say the energy, because what you're referring to now has to do with the frequency of music. So let's say the certain hertz music is tuned to or pitched to. But what I mean when I say the political affiliations a song may have is that the way we listen to or fail to listen to each other has become sort of the central aspect of contemporary socio-political culture, not only here in the US, but all over the globe for the past decade or so. And we see this come about from certain protests or debates that have been occurring, especially more than ever in the past year with the new political climate we are dealing with.
Gotcha.
But how does the music relate to political debates and all this discussion about stuff?
Well, if we were to take a look back, for an example, if we were to take a look back last May with the tragic death of George Floyd and the BLM protests that emerged, all these new artists
Emerged, they came out.
Yeah, like how the BLM protest started.
Yeah,
because of George Floyd's. Well, not because of George Floyd's death. It was happening for years, but it kind of sort of.
It was
it was brought to the forefront a little more.
It was the grain of hay that broke the camel's back.
Yeah, exactly. Sort of enhanced more. So basically, what I mean is through their lyrics, through their music, these artists are engaging others to come about. And when I say it relates, what I mean is that these artists, they're singing from experience. So basically, if we take the BLM protest, for example, and the ties to George Floyd and whatever, what I mean to say is how this genre of protest music has been acknowledging these social injustices that have been occurring, and how it affects us to sort of act out, well, not act out, to act a certain way because we are listening to these lyrics that the artists are portraying.
Okay, so I want to get this straight. So it's actually pretty commonplace to see artists speaking from their own personal experiences. I know that earlier on in his career, Eminem wrote a lot of his lyrics based on his adolescence and young adult life
and real life experience.
Yeah, he did. Especially 8 Mile was a movie based on his real life experience. So it's definitely commonplace that artists will be doing stuff like that. Do you have an example of someone in a more contemporary fashion? So someone nowadays, over the last 12 months, that has released a song that has been more of a call to action for some people, or just a prime example of protest music?
Well, and those TikToks with cringe.
I was going to mention that.
Oh,
yes,
okay.
I was going to mention TikTok. As a matter of fact, I don't know if you guys know this song, but This Is America by Childish Gambino.
Yeah.
It was used heavily during the Black Lives Matter movement.
Right.
And I don't know if you guys are on TikTok either.
No.
I kind of am sometimes. So when that was happening back in May, I would see most of the content, I would say 90% of the content I was seeing was centered around using that one song and making videos out of it. So basically, This Is America by Childish Gambino was used, and people taking videos of people looting stores and setting fires to city, as we saw back when the BLM first emerged. And if you take a close listen to some of the lyrics, Childish Gambino says in the song, this is America, this is how I'm living now, police in my area, that kind of references what we're talking about here with political injustices, and how this is a true example of how we listen to or fail to listen to each other in regards to political topics in sound.
What are you thinking, Pete? I see thoughts in your eyes.
Thoughts in my eyes? I've got a lot of thoughts. I mean, I'm not going to hit you with the question I wanted to ask you just yet. I think we still need to delve a little bit deeper into this topic. But I mean, I'm not on TikTok, so I don't necessarily know how many TikToks were made with the song This Is America. But I can tell
quite
you...
Quite a lot of TikToks.
Yeah, when our good old friend Donald Glover, he's not our friend, but when Childish Gambino dropped that song in 2018... or 2017 maybe, I don't remember exactly, but it was my freshman year. People went nuts. People went crazy. I woke up one day and this was the #1 trending video on YouTube, and this was an overnight sensation type of thing. And I just remember watching it and be like, whoa, that was disturbing, which was it was very much an accurate representation of what I think a lot of people go through, which is just horribly unfortunate, but you know, it's a sad truth. So I wonder, aside from that song, do you have any other artists or examples that you think have done so? Because that song is a huge cultural phenomenon within the US. Like, everybody that listens to music nowadays knows that song for sure. Like, you wouldn't meet someone, or not even because of the song itself, but you wouldn't meet someone that has never heard of the video, maybe, or a lot of the content of that music video. You know, like stuff that happens, like where he's pretending to shoot another man with the bag over his head.
Mm-hmm.
He's preaching in the choir, preaching the gospel in the choir together, and then they all get machine gunned down. You know, stuff like that is really disturbing stuff to watch at first, but then you got to look deeper. So what are some of those I guess deeper things that you saw in that video that you think are exemplified within our nation's culture? And I guess what are some other examples that I'm just wondering if you have any?
I mean, regarding the video, as you said, it was very controversial because of the way it was filmed and what he was trying to portray within that video. Like, as you just said, with him with the mask on, like pointing the guns, trying to shoot someone. Protests, like this whole genre of protest music has been on the rise, like I said, over the past year because of everything that's been happening in the news or just like in our environment around us. But I wouldn't necessarily say I have another specific example, but lots of artists have just been addressing more political and social problems in their music as opposed to before, where most artists would just kind of talk about their love lives or anything else in their music. But now you just have like these more of like these social injustices being talked about and brought to light that otherwise you would have not known of, because people our age, not all people pay attention to the news, right? But music is this one universal thing that we all have. We all listen to music every single day. So I think this is also important because this is a great way to bring about what we don't know and to talk about things that are happening that we may not know because we are all listening to music. So one way or another, we will find out what is happening if these artists continue to bring them to light in their songs.
I feel like, and maybe I'm stupid for like asking or thinking this, but like during like the Vietnam War, there were songs made regarding the war, regarding the draft, regarding the soldiers. Like Born in the USA was like a really famous song.
Apocalypse Now.
What?
Apocalypse Now as well. You remember that song?
I probably
like
do. I don't know
intro
songs by
riff.
name because I'm uncultured, but that's beside the point. The point is, decades ago, there were social issues in the country of America and the world, and artists back in even decades ago, artists were making songs based on political issues. So I feel this is maybe a similar thing where we're in a tense political environment and people are expressing themselves in many ways, one of those ways being music.
Yeah, I agree with that, actually. I don't think that you're uncultured to say something like that. I mean, we definitely know that in tense political environments, people feel ostracized in a way. And there's so much polarization between parties, especially in the US. I mean, let's not go and talk about other countries, but in the US specifically, there's a lot of polarization and like deeply divided polarization. So it doesn't surprise me at all that those artists are finding ways to try to convey problems that they face because they feel as though either they're in alignment with one side, that they feel the other side doesn't address those problems. Now, I do wonder if there's any sort of, this was my question that I wanted to ask you from before.
Here we go. This better be good, Pete.
I wonder if there's some sort of counterculture to this, because, you know, in interesting fashion that we see, like basically in all aspects of our lives, there's a lot of action reaction relationships, like matter antimatter, or just plus and minus. There has to be an opposite to this thing. So I wonder, are there people that are doing the opposite of what artists who are doing protest music are releasing protest music? Like, are there people that are making incendiary music on purpose?
Maybe diss tracks insulting artists
Yeah.
that actually.
But that's towards individuals, right? Like, that's, you remember the Drake and Meek Mill, whatever happened there. I think, Daphne, you probably remember that, of course.
Sorry, what was that?
I said, do you remember the Drake and Meek Mill beef that was going on a couple of years ago?
Barely. I didn't really follow that.
You know the song Back to Back, right, by Drake?
Uh-huh.
That was a diss to Meek Mill.
Oh, see, like, I didn't know that because I didn't pay much attention to Drake music
Okay.
back then.
Okay, fair enough. There was also that Machine Gun Kelly and Eminem beef. There was Lil Wayne and I think it was Kanye. No. He was on a Kanye song. Whatever. There have been rap beefs before, but those are all catered towards individuals. We haven't really, or I can't think of an example off the top of my head of a person that has made music to deliberately try and go against a certain faction of people for, I guess, not necessarily malicious intent, but I guess to a call to action in a way.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, I'd have to agree. I don't really think there's been artists making music to go against this protest music genre. Like, as Alex said, most of the music I've heard has just been like diss tracks, artists going against each other. And even now, like, they'll throw a dig into someone famous. Like, I'm sure there's digs about President Trump and people's protest music.
No way.
Or
I wouldn't believe that.
or disses to other artists and other famous celebrities. But I wouldn't say that there's sort of like this counterculture to protest music, because then I guess what would be that counterculture is just artists going about making regular music about their lives, but that wouldn't really be considered a counterculture then. So I'd have to agree. I don't really think that there's any counterculture to this protest music.
Pete, I think regarding this stuff about this protest music and just music about certain political issues is there. Did you ever watch Straight Outta Compton?
Yeah,
it's a great movie.
definitely.
Don't bring your girlfriend to watch it though. Anyway,
real movie.
Anyway, there was a quote where one of the guys, he said, "We write music that describes our environment."
Yeah.
You can't be mad at you can't be mad at the song for us just stating what is essentially
What is going
their
on?
reality, the obvious to them. So it would be hard to have a counter, because having a counterculture to this would be like having a counterculture to real life, which is
Exactly.
stupid. With that being said, because I am a devil's advocate, I do think some of these people could, tone it down with their symbolism. Life isn't as bad. Listen, life sucks. But we stay positive. We
Stay
stay
positive
positive through it
always.
all. We stay
Yes.
positive. Well, I try at least, and I hope Pete tries, and I hope everyone listening tries. Life was never designed to be easy, and humans were never designed to have it all. So I'm not going to sit here and say there aren't problems. If anything, if you don't have problems, what's wrong with you? But
Yeah.
if you keep, and I understand, you need to point it out. You need to show the world that there are problems if you want to solve them.
Mhm.
But at the same time, there's always the risk that people see these things, and rather than maybe want to fix them, they rather just want to, I don't know if indulge is the right word, but they just want to like wallow in their own anger and become aggressive, which is counterintuitive to problem solving. But these are phases, they come and go. Eventually, because the thing is, it'll continue to escalate, I boldly assume, and once it's escalating, there reaches a point where change has to be made. You can't, the society can't just sit and do nothing. Now, what happens at that breaking point, I don't know. I'm not a fortune teller, but I pray to God I survive. Anyway, once that moment happens, a change will happen, and I won't say it resets per se, but the political environment will change, and thus the music will change.
Yeah, going off of what Alex just said, also when we consider these political topics and sound and this music, we also have to consider that there's this very fine line between what we can consider personal and political in regards to this music. So, like, if we were to take a look back at This Is America, again, the song by Childish Gambino, while it was used to represent the BLM protests, I also saw another, like, surge on TikTok back in January after this new election of Joe Biden as president of the United States. And so this song was being used again, but sort of in this more positive light regarding what party you are affiliated with. So positive for like Democratic Party and leftists, because they were using this music to represent like this sort of freedom and like this happiness in the country now that Joe Biden was elected as president. And in the videos I was watching on TikTok, it was like everyone like running through the streets with flags and being happy and celebrating together that he was elected as a new president. So there is in fact this fine line between what you consider personal and political in regards to this music. The personal obviously being like the social inequality and racialization in this music from the BLM, but also political in regards to elections and the government as seen in these TikToks back in January.
You see, that's an interesting point though, because I disagree with, I agree completely that there is a fine line between, individual and collective, not only responsibility, but how you can interpret something, a piece of art. But at least this is my subjective view of what the song was supposed to be talking about. I don't think that the song was supposed to stand for a movement. It was, from my view, the song was to point out the reasons to have a movement. So it's more of a foundation than it is an actual pillar, and that's what confuses me as well about why people would use that song as a baseline for celebrating Biden's victory, when I think that song should be a baseline for seeing what is going wrong and what we need to do to fix it. And I think we've talked about it before, Alex, where we've conversed about ignorance and quelling your ignorance, getting to know thy neighbor, and just doing your part to be a human being, right? Like that is one of the simplest things you could do to solve so many issues, and yet so many people don't know how to do it, and they're just unwilling, and they don't want it. They want to be steeped in ignorance the rest of their lives. But I don't know. That's kind of interesting. Do you have like a counter to that? Because to me it seemed like it was more of a thing that you wouldn't necessarily want to celebrate. It's more of a thing that you want to look at and make you think about, because it is such an abrasive video.
Again, yeah, I agree with you. That's why this is such a controversial thing, because, again, the way we listen to or fail to listen to each other, like, we all have different perspectives, so we could take the music a different way. We could think of it in a different way, and that's why some people were celebrating this music, even though if you take a close look at the lyrics, you wouldn't be given much reason for celebration. But, like, people take the lyrics and the music in a different way than others would have. That's why you sort of have like these sort of opposing views, how people would use it for the BLM or people would use it for the election.
I mean, once again, I'm not an expert in this stuff, but we give meaning to everything. We give meaning to our words, and we give meaning to music we listen to. And my interpretation of this music might differ from your interpretation, exactly. You know what I'm saying? So these people who probably, and this is, once again, assuming we genuinely care about the music, there's always the people who try and use it for malicious purposes or tools or influencing, but we're not here to talk about that. The point is, as humans, we can see things in different ways. Like, I'm sure we've all come across that metaphor of like, you look at a piece of art, like a painting, and someone will come up with one interpretation of what the artist meant, and then someone else interprets it something else. The truth is, only the real artist knows, and obviously we can do our best to interpret it, but who's to say our interpretation is right, you know? So these people, and once again, this on top of sobering your ignorance, you know, these people probably didn't watch or didn't pay attention or didn't analyze or just didn't care about what the music video was trying to establish. They just kind of were like, yeah, we'll use this as our, I don't know, success anthem or something. I don't know. But it's on them to see it in the way that's understandable.
That's the thing about art, though. And I mean, Daphne, you know this deeply in your soul because you are an artist, and well, you're a better artist than myself and Alex could ever be combined. But you know how subjective art is. So because Alex mentioned this, that we don't know exactly what the artist themselves was thinking. But yet, whenever they release that piece of art, whether it's a piece of music or an article of clothing or painting, an oil on canvas, you know, like whatever it is, it's released to the world for other people to judge. And so it is so hard to actually decide whether or not you should be taking something a certain way, because everybody is entitled to their opinion, because art is so subjective all the time. There's no objectivity behind art other than how art is made.
But not even just judge. It's like in the example of this music video, This Is America, it's probably to think or dwell or analyze, to try and understand it, not to see which side, not to like put a side to it, rather just look at the world for what it is and like see what can be done about it. Not just, oh, this is my song. No, it's my song.
Yeah, it's like meant to provoke thought and get you like critically thinking about what's going on. Even just saying like how you just mentioned about art, everyone has a different perspective, as we said, and yes, everything's open to interpretation. That's why everyone takes something a different way, and I feel as though, for me, it's like you're sort of left guessing. You don't know which way to turn, what to think, or what to believe. So, again, with this music and this song specifically, that's why it's taken so many different routes, because everyone does have their own beliefs and ideas of what they think is right versus what they think is wrong.
But I see a problem with that, because they're literally dividing themselves with this piece of art rather than collectively trying to work together and understand it. They're saying it means this because I said so, and then you have a bunch of people who like side with that person, and then someone else is like, no, this is my song, it's supposed to symbolize me and my problems and blah 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 blah. And it's like, well, now you have two groups of people who are thinking polar opposites of each other. And rather than probably working together to like see what the video was trying to say and in what it's representing in real life and then trying to tackle it, they're wasting their time discussing, this is my song, no, it's my song, and using it how they see fit. And, you know, it basically boils down back to tribalism. It's like where they're just picking sides rather than just appreciating what it is and working and seeing it together. They see it separate.
And that is precisely why most people don't realize that music is a very political topic. You would just listen, like I mentioned at the beginning of this episode. Normally, I can be accused of this. Before taking this class, I would listen to a song and be like, oh, that's nice, I like these lyrics. Or I would listen to something else and be like, I don't really like that, that's not my type of music. But now, as we dive deeper, we realize that these political affiliations with music, they tend to divide us. Now, even more than ever, because of what is going on in the world around us.
That's silly.
That's so interesting. But, you know, to an extent, it governs human psychology as well. Because similar in general to how we live our lives, you know, everybody's got an opinion or a feeling or just an overall idea of what they like. And if you like one certain type of music and someone you're talking to doesn't like that music or even feels strongly against that music, then you two probably aren't gonna like mesh well together in like in a social interaction, right? So I actually see this a lot happening, especially like in my frat. You know, we always, one of the questions we always ask, and I'm really big on this because, you know, I get to find out a lot about people when I talk about this with them. But one of the questions we always ask is, what kind of music do you like? You know, and so we ask that question to get to find out what's going on in that in those skulls, right? So do you think that there's some kind of trace route all the way back to more like, of course we still have essences of tribalism in our society today, but to more tribal times where we were more nomadic and just a less civilized society, where people would have some kind of preference in certain sounds, you know, because like when you think about society 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 years ago, I feel like there definitely was a medium for people to convey art aside from paintings. You know, there had to be some kind of way that people could express music. And if one tribe was not liking the certain type of music that another tribe was creating, then that's instantly a cause for strife. You know, so I don't know. What do you have to say about that? I'm curious.
I mean, yeah, going off what you were just saying, like, as we can see, going back all those years, like, this issue has been around since as long as we can remember. And even now, it's only even more prevalent in our society. So the fact is that something like this will never really go away. It can just be minimized. And that's why it's at the level it has reached today, because it's always been apparent in societies from the beginning of time.
Well, is it necessarily an issue? So what I'm talking about solely is the fact that there is difference in opinions on certain sounds, you know, like, and of course nowadays lyrics apply more than ever because, you know, we can put lyrics into songs, and we have electronic mediums with which to connect everything, and auto tuning and all that jazz. You know what I'm talking about. But I'm saying just in general, differing sounds, differing audio signals, like if you want to take the ugly electrical engineering approach, like people that don't like it are just going to disagree with you inherently, you know. And of course we don't talk about this stuff anymore, but I don't see it as necessarily an issue, more of just a fact of life. You know, like, for instance, if I talk to someone on the street randomly and be like, hey, do you like Martin Garrix? And they're going to be like, who the hell is that? Oh, is it that dude that made Animals from, like, what, 2014, 2013? Oh, yeah, I hate that song. Like, who's gonna, I won't care, right? But some people might. And, of course, that's the problem right there, you know, like, that you care so much what other person thinks, right? Whether or not they actually like it is something that I feel like you two can talk about and hash out, right? But, you know, what you care about their opinion so much, that I think is what you're trying to get to.
Yeah,
Am I wrong?
like everyone's entitled to their own opinions and their own beliefs, but even more now, there's this thing where like people are trying to impose their own beliefs and opinions onto others who may not agree, which is why this has caused this sort of strife and divide, because people just want to stick to what they know, right? We're very stubborn. At least I'm very stubborn. So if I had a certain opinion, I know I would want to stick to that, and I wouldn't want to listen to what anyone else was sort of telling me, which is why, yeah, that's the issue. I agree with that when you say that.
I think there's nothing wrong with having different opinions, and there's nothing wrong with wanting other people to hear your differing opinions, and there's nothing wrong with people disagreeing with your opinion, but there are two things that I personally, Alex, would deem as wrong. One is to try and force your opinion down someone else, and two, trying to completely reject and shun the person based on their differing opinion. To stop that, to go out of your way to stop someone from living a nice life because their opinion is slightly different than yours, is petty and very selfish of you. very intolerant, which is something I think you and I, Pete, we both stand against.
Of course. Here's an interesting take I have. I wonder how you can answer this one, actually. Do you think that the idea behind protest music destroys individualism?
That's kind of a loaded question because
That is a loaded question.
it could really go either way. If it destroys individualism, I guess to a certain extent.
If you fall into the trap, it does.
Mm-hmm.
But like, you are responsible for your life.
Yeah,
and
yet again, it depends on how you take it, the way you're perceiving the music and what the lyrics mean to you.
So individualism in the sense that, yes, the artist is taking this from their own experience in the world and what they see around them, but the fact is that they're trying to portray it to others, and maybe others feel as though this artist is pushing something down their throat, or like trying to strip them of what they believe in, trying to get them to switch their idea to the beliefs of the artist.
Yeah, I mean, that's one way. Also, it could be several people, instead of feeling objectified by this artist, they also largely agree. There are some individuals that agree because they feel like they've been in a similar situation. There are other people that agree because they have some sort of collective responsibility to each other and to that artist and to the idea. And so why I ask it is because I feel like a lot of times there are some people that they've decided to join a movement when it almost doesn't apply to them. And they're part of something because they feel like they're helping, but they're only doing it to be part of the group, to be tribal, not because they themselves have faced an injustice or have proof to really show why they believe in this movement.
100%. I agree with that because, people just want to feel part of the group. They want to feel included. Like, I remember on social media when, like, someone posts a certain thing, I would see, oh, yeah, like, a bunch of other people are going to post it because they want to feel included. They want to feel like they have done something right in regards to this cause so that they can say they're making a difference and that they've been part of the bigger difference in the long run and in the bigger picture. But in actuality, they're not really making a difference. They just want to say that, oh yeah, I've been part of this, even though it doesn't really apply to me, and I'm never going to really face the same injustice that these other people have been facing.
Yeah, and I mean that is I think a really good, really solid idea to grasp, because it's unfortunate that so many people
fall into that.
They're almost so many people fall into it. So many people are trying to project that onto others as well,
which I hate.
And that's where you lose your sense of individualism. That's where the collectivist mentality of not really understanding what it is you're actually fighting for sometimes. And I think that a lot of people don't understand what they're fighting for.
Listen. People, you have your ideas, you have your beliefs, and we all want to feel like wanted. We all want to feel like we're a part of something bigger. And I can appreciate that. Like, no one wants to be alone and no one wants to feel helpless. And people want to sometimes feel like they're contributing to a cause greater than themselves. That's fine. But listen, you have to think these things through. You have to look at this group, look what they actually stand for. Don't look at their title and say, oh, that's a catchy title. Oh, there's 1 million people who joined. It obviously must be a good thing I'm joining. Don't do that. You have to look at what they stand for, what they represent, what they're doing, and then, if you believe in them, okay, fine, go. I won't stop you. But like for example, if there was a cult, and they're saying we're going to change the world, we're going to cleanse the world. What if they said that? That sounds, on paper, nice, but...
No.
That sounds scary to me.
No,
on
it sounds
paper.
scary because you're thinking this
too.
through. But imagine if you're like a brain dead idiot. It's like, oh, I want the world to be clean. That sounds like a great idea.
Okay, cleanse the environment. You said.
No. That's what I'm saying. It's like we're thinking this through. Like if you heard a cult say that, you'd be like, oh, red flag, red flag. But like that requires you to like think ahead. You have to be like, okay, this is bad. Okay, forget cleanse the world. What if they said we want to make the world a better place? That sounds like a great thing to get behind. But
Okay,
what does that
yeah.
mean?
Better analogy.
What does it mean? What is their version of make the world a better place? You know, I'm not going to reference any famous historical groups, but I'm sure they tried to make the world a better place, and I think we can disagree with how they tried to do that. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. I think we all know who we're thinking about. But it shows that, like, you have to, like, think about this. Think about the ramifications. Think about the steps. Don't just be like, we have a goal. It's like, what's that goal? We haven't gotten that far, but we have it. You know? That's my PSA for today. Don't join something without understanding what it is you're joining. Please. Thank you.
Yeah, that's true. That's where a lot of people fall short. I mean, they just want to be part of something for the sake of saying, oh, yeah, like, I'm an activist. I made a difference. Even though they don't really know what they're getting behind and the deeper meaning to it all, what the end goal is going to be, or what they're standing up for in the long run.
I'm curious to see where protest music goes now. Because there is this essence of closet polarization now, post-election, post-events that happened.
What does that mean?
6 months ago. You know, like, a lot of people right now, I feel like, are just quiet again.
Good.
You know, there's no strife anymore.
Good.
But none of the problems have been solved. There's nothing has changed.
At least no one is like their problems are still there, but at least now we're more calm and maybe we can, like, pay attention to the problems and actually try to solve them rather than just scream about it, you know?
I wouldn't necessarily say we're more calm, because there's always going to be strife and there's always going to be problems and there's always going to be someone angry because they didn't get their way, right? So I don't necessarily think we're calm. I just think now, because there may not be a protest or a movement or something like so drastic going on, that's why maybe people are quiet.
They should all just take a chill pill and have a bite of fresh McDonald's apple pie. That's what I say. That'll solve half of the world's problems, I'd say.
That would solve half of my problems.
Daphne, do you see... I mean, of course, it's impossible to predict anything in this world. Like, we live in a world where stuff just happens, and sometimes you need to adjust rather than assume what will happen. But my question to you is, do you have an idea of what protest music could look like in the future? Aside from the just very basic idea that right now it's people are talking about their experiences. Do you think that this could change in the future, or will it stay the same?
I mean, to me, everything is sort of like this domino effect, right? So the protest music that's going on today is going to have a large effect on what will be happening in the future, right? So I think that the answer to that question really depends on what we continue to see happen in, like, the present day. And if more protests emerge in the near future, it depends what we are protesting about and what the topic would be centered about to determine whether it's going to be sort of the same as what we are listening to now or what we are presented with now.
I think it depends on what the problems are 10 years from now.
Yeah. I could get behind that.
Right.
I can't tell you.
Yeah, because we don't know yet.
And I'm not a clairvoyant, foreseeing human being, so I definitely can't.
If you were, I'd ask you for tomorrow's lottery number, but
or maybe the next GameStop, right?
Yeah. And hey, GameStop is, what is it now? This is live, people. This is live. What is GameStop? It is 270, baby. We are going to the moon. We are climbing. We are climbing, guys. To the moon, hilarious. Baby.
That's hilarious. But anywho, so is there anything else you wanted to add to this, or at least quell my ignorance if I have any regarding this topic? I think I did learn something about it today that I didn't know before, so I'm happy about that.
Well, let's see. I mean, I guess I would just have to add on that, I mean, we all listen to music, right? It's a part of our daily lives. Every single person can't say that they go one day without even listening to a bit of music. So I think music is unique in the sense that it has this sort of power to influence social transformation, if you will, or hinder it in regards to protests or what we believe or what not to believe in. And that this is a big aspect of what we refer to when we talk about political topics in sound. And not like these protests, not only do they let artists bring about these issues to light, they allow the rest of us to make sense of our lives and the world around us, right? So the more we acknowledge these issues and how they correlate back to sound and what music is at its very core, we can become aware of how this protest music is just a mere dialogue of communication between each other, right? And so by listening to each other more and communicating more, the likelihood of diminishing or sort of extinguishing these issues only rises.
Fair point.
Wait, I want to say something. I have a one last thought. Is so a lot of this protest music is talking about problems that we have, right? Am I fair in saying that?
Mm-hmm.
Could there be music that talks about like what they should do to solve it? Maybe is that a cool idea for artists to maybe adopt? Is how about we've spread our awareness? You know, we're aware. We can see. What's step 2? You know, maybe they can make music for that.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think that's sort of where artists should take this, like the next level of protest music. But there's also this idea of like censorship that comes in regarding that certain people may not want, because an artist is not a politician. What do they know about all these social injustices and all these issues, right? They're just speaking from personal experience. But this idea of censorship, oh, maybe someone doesn't want this to get out and they don't want the artists to portray what they believe, which goes back to everyone trying to impose their own ideas onto everyone else.
I mean, nowadays censorship, at least in America, is going like if you try to censor something and if you're 99% successful, that's going to lead to 100% disaster. Because if people find out you tried to stop like others from listening or hearing something, then that doesn't tell people that it's a bad idea. It tells them it's an idea that people can get behind, and the government or whoever doesn't want you to get behind it. So as far as censorship goes, don't do it. Please, thank you.
Censorship is another form of cancel culture.
Yeah,
Change my
it's
mind.
really bad, but listen, there's always scumbags and horrible people with horrible ideas. I can appreciate that maybe you want to have like a quality filter on it. With that being said, once you hear it, you do not have to adopt it, and no one has to accept it, and the person who had the idea should not be allowed to force it upon anyone, or peer pressure or mob mentality, brainwash, protest music. Whatever they want. They can't make anyone join their side. It has to be a side worth joining to begin with, not a side you hold everyone at gunpoint to join you, because then what was the point?
Yes. And on that note, Alex, take us away.
And on that note, my good friend Pete, to Class 3130 and to all of our lovely listeners,
Special shout out to Professor Tausig and my graduate TA Taylor Ackley.
Professor so and so
Tausig
and
my TA Taylor Ackley.
To that guy and to all the students except that guy in the back. Yeah, you know who you are. Yeah, you. I'm just kidding. You can join in. To all you lovely people who are listening in on this podcast, please remember to don't let yourself get brainwashed. Think things through. Don't be afraid to express yourself, and don't be upset if people don't listen to you, because all that matters is that you love yourself. Thank you. And with all of that, Daphne, what do we always do?
Stay positive.
Stay positive, everyone. See you.
Later.